All right, let's talk about adding levels and grids to a Revit model. So the first thing you're going to do is go up to your Architecture tab, and you're going to choose Grid. Since we're in Plan View, you're going to choose Grid. I'm going to click on it, and you don't get a lot of options here for grids. You do get an offset if you're using a pick lines tool. This will help offset. And you do have the option to use a bubble with a gap or a custom gap or just a standard bubble. So there aren't a whole lot of graphic options for this particular grid bubble head, but you can make your own, and we can look at that later. So I have a half-toned floor plan here of the Villa Savoie, which we're using for an underlay. And there are two ways to make grids. The first is to enter them manually when you have an AutoCAD underlay. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag my grid up to the location I want to. Actually, I'm going to move over and put this grid on the number 1 grid line. You see there that we have a grid and it says number 1. Now, if I make my second grid line here, Revit will automatically create the next number in the sequence. And you'll see that when I'm aligned with my grid bubble number 1, I get a blue horizontal dashed line that'll show me that alignment. Can continue to do that. The other thing I can do is I can use this pick lines tool and hover over my line, and it will create my grid bubble. Now, a couple things happen here. One is that the grid bubble the grid head is in the wrong location. So I can change those by using these check boxes, turn them on and off. And it's a much quicker input if you already have CAD in place, even just going through and checking these grid boxes. It's a little bit easier. Do the same thing here. When it's time to do the horizontal grids, however, notice here we have a smaller grid. We're going to just ignore that one for the time being. When you have a smaller grid, or I'm sorry, when you start to do the horizontal grids, you'll notice in this case they've kept the same numerical convention, but generally speaking, grids going in an opposite direction use an opposite lettering system. The other thing that's a little bit different in this plan is that the grid numbers, or as we're going to make them letters, are going down the left side of the drawing when they would generally go down the right. And the reason for that is because when you have drawings bound into a set, these grid numbers will start to go into the gutter of that bound set. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom and pull this over, and in this case I want to change this 6 to an A. So all I have to do is click on this blue number and change it to an A, and then when I create my next grid in the sequence, it will start the renumbering. Oops. Make that one crooked. It'll start the renumbering following that system that you've set up, and continue to make these all the way up. Now there are a couple other things to look at with grids besides just the locations of the heads and the numbers. You have the ability to lock these grids into place, these little locks here as well. And the other thing you have is this little button for 3D, and that 3D button is important because whenever you change, if it's on 3D, whenever you change these grids, it will change them universally throughout your views. If you click on this, it'll change it to 2D, and it will just change it in this particular view. So this is really useful if your top floor, for instance, is much smaller and you don't need, if it was only a quarter of this building, you could pull these grids back in 2D and make them smaller and closer in so that they looked a little bit cleaner. So those are our grids, super, super easy. Now what I'm going to do is go to any elevation and inner levels. So once I'm in my elevation, you'll see that Revit by default creates 2 levels, one at 0 and one at 10 feet. But in reality for this project, Villa Savoie, level 2 is at 9 feet 10 inches. So I'm going to just type in 9 space 10, and that's going to give me my 9 feet 10 inches. Now, to create my second level, I can go up here and click level, and similarly, and you can use the hotkey LL for that, similarly I can click this input just like that. And the easiest way to change these again is to just click here and change this. So the level 3 roof is going to be 19 feet 8 inches. And now I can change this level 3 so that it says, instead of level 3, I could say, a little elbow's getting in the way here. If I scroll in a little bit, I can change this so that instead of saying just level 3, it can say level 3 roof. It's same naming convention. And what it's going to ask me is if I'd like to rename the corresponding views for this level. So anytime I have a level 3 plan, it'll say level 3 roof now. So if I hit yes, you'll see that happening over here in my project browser. Okay, and we've got one more that we want to do, and that is in the Villa Savoye, there are kind of 2 floors, and then there's the top of the wall of the roof terrace area. And so this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my copy command, which is CC. I'm just going to copy this and pull it up. And this is just to show you something really quickly, and that is that when you use the copy command, it turns the level black. Now in Revit, anytime you see a blue item, it's a hyperlink. And if I double click on this, it'll take me to a floor plan. In this case, there's nothing in that floor plan yet because we haven't modeled anything. But when you use the copy command, it doesn't do that. So if you wanted to create a floor plan, the easiest way is to just draw it with a level tool. And this should actually be at 27 feet, 10.5 inches. Now, if I wanted to create a floor plan for this level, let's say that there was a 3rd level to this house and this was the actual roof plan. All I'd have to do is go up to my View tab here, and under Plan Views, I can say Floor Plan. And what it's going to show me is any level that doesn't have a floor plan already associated to it. If I want to see all the levels, I can uncheck this box down here that says Do Not Duplicate. If I hit OK, it's going to create that plan. There's level 4, and if I go back to my elevation, you'll see that it's now blue. Now we only have one other problem here, and that is that our grid bubbles are not floating up here above the top of our building. So I'm just going to take one and grab it, and all the rest of them are going to come with it. Give us a nice little space for our elevation. The great thing about these is that they're 3D objects, so that's going to happen everywhere. There they go. Beautiful. So that's pretty much it for levels and grids. Very simple and a great way to start a project.